Hello, my name is Monica Melgar, also known as Monica Melgar. I am a line artist. One of the most common questions I get when showing my work is, how did you come up with your technique? I also get, how do you do it? With that in mind, I present to you the making of a style in 7 easy steps, along with some other tidbits of information about my artwork. Step 1. I doodled. I doodled a lot. What started out in high school due to classroom boredom became a regular go-to whenever I found myself in a meeting, waiting for food at a restaurant, watching TV, pretty much any time that my hands needed to stay busy. I doodled. My doodling style comprised of lots of tiny dashes to make free-flowing forms. Step 2. I painted like I doodled. I took my first formal painting class while attending the Art Institute of Houston for graphic design. When assigned to make my first painting, I decided to paint like I doodled, and voila! Honestly, I was surprised but quite pleased at how the technique translated onto canvas with paint. Step 3. I made my first series. Once I made my first painting with what I called pointillism with a twist, I was hooked. I started experimenting with acrylic paint on bigger and bigger canvases. Then I suddenly had a series that included mostly abstract pieces, with a couple of pieces that had imagery I borrowed from the Aztec culture. Step 4. I got a generous husband. When I first went to an open studio event at Spring Street Studios, I couldn't even imagine myself there. It seemed like a dream. And then just like that, one day my husband said, "Why don't you get a studio?" And the rest, as they say, is history. It's a gift that pretty much set my course as a professional artist, for which I will be forever grateful. Step 5. I had a solo show. Shortly after getting my studio at Spring Street, I was invited to have a solo show at Galleria Regina. I called the show Chasing Phosphenes. Phosphene is the phenomenon of seeing light without light entering the eye. I went with that because at the time, my theory was that my images or designs were influenced subconsciously by the phosphenes I would see when falling asleep. Step 6. By way of technology via a digital tablet and a stylus, I started experimenting with a new technique. I basically connected the dashes into lines, and then I could not get enough. Lines and lines and lines, mostly wavy, swirly lines. These eventually became sketches for my new paintings. And then step 7, I obsessed. After practicing the new line technique on the tablet, I then started making the swirl doodles on paper. I was obsessed with trying every marker, every pen that I could find. I was really obsessed with this new technique, and I've made hundreds since then, and love looking back at all the different designs that poured out of me. Then, of course, I took the technique to canvas, and ta-da! A style was born. I make these paintings freehand with fine brushes. This style is what I dream about, what I obsess about, what my art breathes. Investigating how lines interact, the tension they create, the textures that appear, and how they make a canvas come to life is what drives me to keep creating more and more and more work. Since I got hooked on the swirls, I've experimented with different color palettes, styles, and new compositions. The biggest game changer since I started with the swirls has been the availability of a new acrylic gouache paint. This new kind of gouache allows me to thin down the paint to act almost like ink while keeping its opacity. I've discovered pinstriping brushes that allow me to create really long, fine lines. And because I like to constantly change myself with something new, at some point I tried straight lines, which at first weren't very straight at all. Once I saw there was so much more to improve on, I did more and more straight line paintings. Eventually, I saw the time had come for me to honor one of my art heroes, Frida Kahlo. I combined both the straight lines with some of my signature swirls, and here you have it. I think I did her proud. A couple years ago, I went to visit my father in Mexico, and while at a local market, I came about the artisans painting pottery. They were painting free-handed flowing lines with bright colors, with a technique that had been handed down from generation to generation. I had forgotten how during my childhood I would watch them fascinated by their ability. I believe that this was a subconscious influence to my style. My constant need to keep my hands busy happens to be a form of OCD. Instead of picking and biting at my cuticles called dermatophagia, painting eases my anxiety and calms me down. When stay-at-home orders were given at the beginning of the pandemic, I started making original paintings on paper. I've made over 300 pieces. This has prompted me to finally get my online shop up and running. I'm still making them. My life, as well as my art career, has been an incredible journey so far, and who knows what else may come. I dream and I plan and I wait to see what my life might surprise me with. A traveling art show, indoor murals, more focus on my upcycled plastic sculptures, featured on an Absolute Vodka ad, who knows, after that, maybe my art on Mars, perhaps? I'd like to thank everyone at Fresh Arts and Artist Inc. for the gift, all the facilitators, the artists, and especially Team Orange. This has been incredible. If you'd like to come see my art, you're welcome at my studio at Winter Street every second Saturday of the month. You can catch me online also on Instagram and Facebook, or contact me via my website at monicamelgarart.com. I'm forever grateful for your attention and support. Now I'm going to go make more doodles. Thank you.